First off, real quick, thank you to the Everett family for this wonderful location and to all of you in Monrovia for this wonderful reception. We bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this place. We thank you for this miracle freedom going across our country right now. Father, we ask your blessing over the Everett family and over this convoy. Father God, you are in control of all things that happen. Your power goes before us. Your power strengthens us. We thank you. We praise you for everything you have done in the lives and hearts you have changed on this journey. Jesus Christ's name. Jesus.
I'd like to invite up to the stage now Dirksen Neufeld for the national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I'd like to introduce to the stage now Grace Kingman, who's going to sing God Bless America for us.
Sing with me on this one, okay? God bless America, land that
like now to introduce to the stage Mike Lennis, one of the co-organizers for the People's Convoy.
You can tell I don't do this very often, right? Anyway, wow. This is amazing. And I don't know that Brian and I could have ever imagined being a part of something like this when we were sitting in American government in high school together. I don't know what to tell you. Solomon, turn it up or something. All right, there we go. Dixie approves. So, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out to this. Anybody that's watching, everyone that's come out on the overpasses at all the places we stopped at that time. This has been a pretty incredible experience, extremely amazing, and I'm just going to start off with the story of this flag over here. I know a lot of people have heard it or seen it already, but it deserves another shot at that anyway. So we were out in Big Cabin, Oklahoma, and a fella said he needed to talk to me. Walked over to his truck and he starts telling me about how his 78-year-old mother that lives with him sent him from Texas up there, and how his grandfather was in World War II in Germany in the tank. As he's doing it, he pulls this flag out from behind his seat and it's folded. I immediately knew what it was and started crying because I was scared of what he was about to tell me, to be perfectly honest. So he tells me that he got killed in action in Germany in a tank in World War II, and that flag covered his casket coming back. His mother and him decided that they wanted it to be flown behind the lead truck in this convoy because it was the first thing since that man passed that represented freedom in their eyes. I really didn't quite know what to say to that. Pretty heavy experience when he handed that out the window, but who am I to deny that, especially in honor to let something that has 48 stars on it, because it was folded for 70 plus years, fly behind this convoy. So we left a little early the next morning and went to 4 states in Joplin and got that flagpole set up. Beautiful eagle on top, donated by the cashier at the shop there that she said needed to be on top, and we're letting her fly. Now, the thing is this family didn't want recognition, they didn't want their name put out there because it's not about that man.
Right.
But there's been many men and women that have served this country to keep our freedoms
Right.
that we have, to protect our Constitution. With that being said, I've seen lately, looking around on social media and stuff, there's a lot of people that still don't really seem to understand what we're doing here. That's what we're about to do. This isn't necessarily about trucking at all, okay? Us truck drivers, we're just the ones that decided to start this off, right? We're the ones, we're like the chauffeurs. We're gonna open the door for all of your voices to be heard where they need to be heard. You see, we have the thing called the Constitution, right? Well, if some of you may know this and some of you may not because we've talked about it, but this is where the point of this convoy for the people, right? You notice there's actually more cars and campers than there is trucks in this thing, which is awesome, by the way. The Constitution gives us our freedoms and our rights. And I'm sorry, but it's not ever evolving because morals don't change. Yes, God gives us our freedom, but the Constitution ensures that our government isn't supposed to take it away from us. That Constitution right now is up to our government to be null and void because of the emergency declarations due to COVID. If you didn't know that, you know it now. What that means is we can basically live under dictatorship rule if they so decide. Now, the only reason I'm telling you this is because I'm just a truck driver, right? My kids race dirt bikes, so do I. That's what I know. But there's some doctors back here, okay, that we met through this. Very, very intelligent people. In fact, they're the same people that the government entrusted to figure out how to fix this and then told to shut up. Yeah, boom. So, after meeting them, it became abundantly clear that this isn't about anti-vaccine, this isn't about masks, this isn't about mandates anymore at this point, because none of that should have ever been in place. Because they can prove that within 14 days, we didn't need to have an emergency anymore. And for the last 2 years, we've been living under this dictatorship-style rule for no reason, other than financial gain to some of our government experts that decided they wanted to make money off of this.
That's right.
Okay? Nobody ever had to die. Nobody's ever had to take a vaccine, but if you choose to do so, that should be your choice. However, you should be properly informed, not just from the government, because whenever the government tells you they're the only source of information, you should be extremely worried.
Right. Right.
But you should also hear from the doctors that create this, because they know exactly what it can do. Okay? So the point of this is we really have no reason for the Emergency Powers Act for COVID. Which means we really shouldn't be living under any type of dictatorship rule if they choose to do so. We should have our Constitution restored, and once we have our Constitution restored, that we can prove why it should with the voice of our doctors, who are very brilliant people, way smarter than me, so I'm not going to talk about it much. But we can then go back and hold these people accountable for everybody that has died and everybody's lives that have is the point of this convoy. It is about making sure that that Constitution that says we not only have the right but the duty as American people to stop a tyrannical government. Well, I would say that a government that's telling you what to do with your body is tyrannical, and when we can prove that it shouldn't be, we have our duty to go stop it, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Right.
Thank you so much. We now have for you tonight, you guys are serving Little Goodness.
Let's try that again. Hey guys. How's it going out for tonight? For those of you who don't know, I'm a tiny little attorney from California by the name of Lou Dennis. Just going to say a few quick words about how this whole thing got started, or at least in my book, how it got started. We were reached out to a few weeks ago by some truckers who said, you know what? We don't believe that the artificial distinctions that the government is drawing are actually real. We don't believe that the Americans actually care about vaccinated versus unvaccinated, whether you're boosted or unboosted, whether you're white or black, whether you're Republican or Democrat. We don't think any of the Americans we know actually care about what divides us or separates us from one another. We think what Americans care about are what unites us, and the fact that first and last, we are Americans! We after 2 years of COVID and the policies put in place to contain COVID, which have caused much destruction, that now that we have COVID in hand for a variety of medical therapeutics and protocols, which the doctors are probably going to bend your ear about tonight, that it is time to jumpstart our businesses and start living and loving and doing what we do best. Amen. To be Americans in a free society. Even the dog agrees. And what a pretty little dog with a bow on the head. So for my part, I said, God bless you, I agree with you 1,000%. And how can I help you boys and girls get your message out? How can I serve? And that is why we are here today. For those of you who are not aware, this has been a 100% peaceful, safe, awesome, transcontinental journey. 100%. We have working dogs, we have security, we have huge logistics teams, we have former naval commanders. Not because we don't trust the truckers to be safe, but we want to ensure that they are safe because they are leading the charge in restoring freedom to America. And on that note, I want to thank the security, the law enforcement officers that we have seen, the law enforcement agencies that we have seen, local, state, and federal, in every single jurisdiction from the time we left Atlanta, California, across 6 or 7 states, until right now, today, when we are standing here in Indianapolis. Thank you, one and all, because you have these boys fast and they won't be forgotten. We will not be going in downtown DC. For reasons that you all know. I don't need to spell them out. All I need to say is these boys are very important, as are the girls in those trucks. They are the leading edge, and they need to stay safe. And we have seen what has gone on in the last year, and that is all we need to know about that. This convoy right now is 30 plus miles long. I stood on an overpass yesterday. God's Army and God's wins, I couldn't agree more. I want to thank, before I close with a little story about standing up, I want to thank the 2 partners who came to help the truckers launch this. You know, a lot of groups said that they were going to help. A lot of groups said they were going to help. But when push came to shove, the night before Atlanta a week ago, there were 2 groups that actually stepped up to the plate. That is the Unity Project and the American Foundation for Civil Liberties and Freedom. And let me tell you something, they did one hell of a heavy lift, along with a lot of other people. Give them a round of applause. So for those of you who don't know, prior to March of 2020, when Washington Post, LA Times, and every other communist, billionaire, Chinese-owned rag decided they wanted to take me out, I was a Fortune 500 attorney who represented the biggest companies on this planet. And then for the better part of the last decade, I took a left turn from that work, and I started going against the Asian mafias that run child sex trafficking in brothels in Southeast Asia. And the best story I ever heard about courage came from my time in Thailand in 2013. I was working with a girl who was young, late teens at the time. She was my secretary. But she was also herself a product of the sex trafficking environment. And one day she walked into my office and she said, I want to tell you a story. When I was 12 or 13, my parents started fighting. And I walked down the street to clear my head, and I sat down at the end of our dirt road in rural Thailand on a bus bench. And about 15 minutes later, a pickup truck full of 3 or 4 men came by, and they jumped out of the bed, and they wrestled me to the ground, and they shoved a needle in my arm that had a narcotic agent in it. And when I woke up, I was in a slave trading camp on the Thailand-Burmese border, where men from all over the world would come to look at us and buy us for their brothels like you would buy cattle at an auction.
Hang 'em all!
And when she woke up, the reason she woke up from that narcotic agent is because a guard had knelt down and executed a 2-year-old baby next to her for crying too loudly. This is the world she came from. This is the world I come from now. And that is why I don't bow down to tyranny, and I don't give a damn what hit pieces are put out on me. Thank you. And then she proceeded to tell me a story that I have never forgotten. I told it once or twice from the stage, and I think it needs to be told again tonight, so here we go. She said 3 or 4 months into her time in this slave trading camp, one day the guards decided they were a little bit bored, and they were going to round up the girls and start executing them for sport in basically what was a firing line. And they went down each girl and laid guns on, only to ultimately fail and be executed at point-blank range. And when she got to that part of the story, she stopped talking, and she looked at me, and I looked at her and I said, what did you do when the guard got to you? And she looked at me and she said, I stood up and I reached out my hand and I said, you give me that gun, I'll shoot myself because I don't want to ever live like this anymore. And the owner of the camp, the owner of the trading camp was walking by, and he overheard her, and he let her walk free. And I learned that day a lesson in courage I have never since forgotten, which is this. When you are staring at a locked and loaded double barrel full of hate and anger and tyranny that is about to do you in, you stand up! You stand up! This is the
Thank you so much. Like I said, let's Dr. Ann Williams up to the stage.
We're all here today because we know that freedom does not come from the end of a needle. That's an illusion. Simply an illusion. And tonight, we can talk about a lot of things, but I want to talk about illusion versus reality. I grew up in a 3-stoplight town in southern Illinois, and during my time growing up and going into medicine, I always believed there was no way you could ever have enough corruption at the CDC and the NIH and the FDA to actually believe that they would lead us astray. They would mislead us intentionally and do us harm. That was my illusion. How do we create illusions? Well, let me tell you a little story, and I need a little show of hands here in a moment. When you think of the all-American hearty breakfast, what are the first two foods that you think of? All of you thought bacon and eggs, raise your hand. Okay, I'm thankful for this. That is not a result of advertising. That is a result of a propaganda campaign. Okay? Advertisers long ago, and PR firms, public relations is literally the new translated name for propaganda when it got a bad name. That's all it is. Literally, they changed it. So they knew, the PR people knew, if we try to sell somebody a piano, we can't just say, hey, you need to buy our piano. You're going to say, no, I don't have the money, no, I don't want to, no, I don't like music, or I'm going to buy a truck, for instance. But either way, go kick rocks. So they understood that that didn't work very well. So what they had to do was they had to create the reality around the customer in order to get the buyer to come to them. So, because they had control over media and everything else that people consumed for their information, they said, let's go do this. They got some different celebrities, they went to the newspapers, they went to the magazines, and they said, hey, let's make this a thing. That every modern home has a proper music room. Everyone. So everybody looks around at each other and they think, well, this is a thing. They find the room, honey, which room are we going to use? That room's a great music room. I think that's what we're going to do. They look over in the corner and they say, honey, I think that piano would look really nice in that corner. Don't you think? So piano sales skyrockets. Now, let's take another one, for example. Let's get back to that bacon and eggs. So what happened there was a bacon company went to a master PR firm and said, can you help us sell more bacon? So they didn't go to the customers and say, buy more bacon. What they did, he goes back to his own firm. They have a doctor on staff that works for them, paid by them, has to basically do what they say. He says, doctor, now, Americans don't eat much for breakfast. Maybe a roll and some coffee and maybe some tea. But that's about it. This is back in the early 1920s in that neighborhood. And so it says, well, wouldn't you agree, doctor, that Americans would be better served, their health would be better served if they ate a hearty American breakfast, maybe including something like bacon and eggs? The doctor who's on the payroll dutifully says, yes, I totally agree. So he says, well, off the books, not with our company, no association here, would you be willing to send a letter to 5,000 of your doctor friends and ask them if they also agree? He says dutifully, yes, I will. So they get the results back. So they say they're counting the votes, never published, of course. And surprisingly, they get 4,500 yeses and 0 nos. Now, we don't need advertising. Here's what we do. We go to the newspapers, we go to all the media, the televisions, and we say, and here's how the headlines read. 4,500 doctors urge Americans that they need to eat a more hearty breakfast to better their health. Maybe something like bacon and eggs. And hence, this is born. All scientists agree, 97%, all of these things come from these propaganda campaigns, but it's an illusion, okay? Now, that guy, okay, we're talking about bacon and eggs. Yeah, I'm thankful for this one. What else did he do? Well, he ran the propaganda for World War I for the U.S. government. Not exactly small potatoes. Also helped the CIA overthrow the Guatemalan government with a propaganda campaign that he created. Additionally, helped get a lot of women smoking with their Torches of Freedom propaganda campaign. Kind of a big player. So, not small potatoes. So how did they create these illusions? Well, let me tell you about his family. His great uncle, none other than Sigmund Freud. And more importantly, you say, oh, this is all in the past. We like eggs and bacon, you know? We don't need to hear about propaganda. Well, he also wrote the book called Propaganda. That seems significant, but more importantly yet, his great nephew was none other than Mark Bernays Randolph, who was the first CEO of Netflix. So when you think about these people being able to craft an illusion for all of us to believe and for the public to go with, there is easily verifiable data. We can find the evidence of all of these things throughout history if people take the time to look. One of the illusions they've created is that doctors, that we're few, that we're not very many that are behind this movement. Most every doctor agrees with these vaccines that aren't really vaccines. Most doctors agree that early treatment doesn't work. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We have thousands upon thousands of doctors behind the ones that are speaking that are behind you and are 100% in this fight. They're all there. We have everything from neurosurgeons to pediatricians to anesthesiologists to anything you name it, we're all there. And more importantly is another illusion. There's an illusion out there that the government always wins, that the government has power over us, that we the people don't have the power. Nothing could be further from the truth. And the only thing that limits us is our belief in that illusion.
Good.
So aside from all the medical talk, what I want to tell you is that you have to understand that and break that illusion. You know, the little things that we do every day, the power doesn't just exist on a stage or with a microphone. The power exists with the people. The constant pressure, the peaceful and constant overwhelming pressure upon the system until the house of cards falls. Because our freedoms, again, do not come from the end of the needle. They never have, they never will. They don't come from a government that puts into law injustice. They legalize injustice. That's not where our freedoms come from. You know where our freedoms come from. They come from our almighty God. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So happy to see all of you here this evening. It absolutely warms my heart every time that I'm in a group of patriots like this. The reason that everyone's here tonight is because you're standing up. Finally, we've been waiting for so long across this country for people to stand up. For me, this journey started in August 6th, sitting in a hotel room in Chicago. United Airlines had just come out with a mandate for their employees. They said, you're going to get this jab or lose your job. At that point, there was no federal mandate. I spoke to a couple of friends and decided we had to do something about it. So we stood up and formed an organization known as U.S. Freedom Flyers. You may have seen the meltdowns that happened at Southwest and American Airlines. They blamed it on clear weather in Florida. You know, it's really pesky. But it turns out when you mistreat your employees, and you take their rights for granted, and you think you're going to bring tyranny into the workplace and into people's lives, they don't take it well. And I'm happy to say we still have a lot of patriots in this country who stood up and didn't just say no, they said hell no, we're not going to take it. That was the most effective thing that we ever did. On November 22nd, we filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration. We're suing them. There's a federal contractor clause in that mandate that all these airlines, large trucking companies, sea shipping, and rail, they're hiding behind it. They're saying, hey, it's not us, it's the government, they're making us do it. So we said, okay, no problem, we're going to help you out. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that and see what you do when you stand on your own. We're currently out of 27 airlines, 5 rail companies, Lockheed Martin and Boeing. Most of them have backed down. They've accepted religious and medical exemptions. But to this day, we do still have 4 airlines who have stood up and said, we're going to have a mandate regardless of what the federal government says. And we're getting ready to file lawsuits against them as well. What I've learned in this trip across the country with these truckers is that the American spirit is not dead. It has been amazing. I'll be honest, I've been really concerned over the past 6 months especially. I was afraid that the American spirit was dead. But I can tell you, driving from California all the way out here to Indy, I think I counted less than 7 overpasses that didn't have Americans standing on them with flags. It's one of the most powerful things that I've ever been a part of. I can't even tell you how proud I am to be an American right now. The fact that you're all here, this is a people's convoy. It's about you. We are going to take this country back to the get-go and have citizens just like you standing up with us. to the truckers. I'm obviously not a trucker, I'm an airline pilot. I actually come from a family of truckers, and that's one of the ways that I got involved in this. But without them doing what they did, you would not see the movement that you're seeing across this country. Look at all these people that have come out. Look at all the average citizens in their cars that are following this convoy, and they're a part of it. It's because you see that there's a problem, and you want to make a change, and the truckers are spearheading it. These are people that have gone unnoticed and unappreciated for way too long. And you know what? It's over. They're the tip of the spear right now. They're standing up for you, and you're standing up with them, and we're all going to stand together as Americans. And we're going to tell this to the tyrannical government that we're done with this. We the people are the government. We're going to take the government back. And we're not going to some tyranny anymore. So thank you so much for coming out this evening. Thank you for everyone that's watching this and supporting these truckers. You know, together, standing together, we're going to make the difference. We're going to change our country. We're going to do it peacefully. We're going to do it lawfully. We're not going to go into D.C., but we're going to stand up and say, hell no, we're not taking it anymore. The games are over. We're taking our country back. This is 1776 again. And everyone needs to stand up. Our rights, our unalienable rights, they come from God, protected by the U.S. Constitution. Right. And the people in our government, they've forgotten that. You know, we the people, we are the government, we're going to stop it, we're going to take it back. I have a lot of faith in this nation, all the citizens of the United States. You know, we see what Canada did, they're standing up. This is happening all around the world. So many people are fed up. This is about all of us as humanity. Right. Standing up for human rights and for each other. Right. Now I just encourage you, never underestimate the power that you make as have as an individual. When you stand up, when you do the right thing, you never know who you're going to influence around you. Right. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing people who stood up, and everyone's rallying around those people, and we're changing the world. Thank you so much for coming out this evening.
Thank you so much. Let's invite Dr. Michael.
I always like to start it like this, because this is the heart of America, and I want to remember it. Here, listen, you too, sweetie pea. It's an honor to be here, and I want to thank you here, because I have a daughter who's a Hoosier. So, I feel like I'm coming home when I'm here with you. A man who wrote a little pamphlet called Common Sense a long time ago, Thomas Paine, said, if there must be trouble, let it be in my day, yes, sir, that my child may have peace.
Right. Amen.
I look out on the face of courage here. This is real America. I don't see fear here. I see the hearts of lions. Thomas Jefferson said, I am a revolutionary, that my children may be farmers, that their children may be poets. Now I could stand up here and spew a bunch of medical knowledge. You guys can go online, you've seen us, you've seen my colleague, Dr. Malone, Dr. McCullough. You've seen the doctors of the Global COVID Summit.org. That's 17,000 doctors. We're the ones that care about health freedom. That's more doctors than are at the NIH, or at the CDC, or at the FDA, who have combined, thank you, who have fed you nothing but a crock of lies. I don't get my health instructions from Anthony Fauci. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Right.
Yeah. But what is this about?
It's not about red parties, it's not about blue parties. It's about red, white, and blue. Because that's who we are. I wore the uniform with pride, and I took an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We need our oath takers, and this is a room full of them. These are people that stand for freedom and believe in the Constitution and the rule of law. And we are peaceful, law-abiding citizens, but we're not laying down. If your doctor thinks MD means minor D, you find a new doctor.
Right.
If your doctor thinks MD means make a difference, you found the right doctor. It's interesting in history, if you look at how tyrannical governments and socialist communist movements started. Mao, Stalin, Pol Pot, Hitler, where did they start? They took over the healthcare system.
Yes.
They took over the healthcare system.
Right.
What have we seen in this last 2 years? Lies. Yes, we've seen lies. And we've seen evil attempts to tell you what to do with your mind and your body. Those are yours. It is all we own. It is sacred and it is ours.
Right. Right.
I took an oath, and my oath wasn't to the government. My oath was to the patient. My sacred oath is between you and me and my ability to help you be well. But you know what? The best doctor you will ever see is in this room right now. It's not me. It's you sitting in your own skin. It's up to us to take care of our own health, not a government. This is the government that has overstepped its bounds. These are healthcare agencies that have overstepped their bounds.
Right.
It is time to restore freedom to this great land. There is no medical emergency anymore.
Right.
If they tell you that, they are lying.
Yes. That's right.
They're lying 2 weeks after it's over.
Yeah, media is lying too. Yeah, and if you don't know about the Trusted News Initiative and how they all colluded against us, yeah, look that one up too. I don't have time to explain that. I am proud to stand here today with my amazing brother truckers. And my sister truckers, because you're beautiful too. I have an old Peterbilt on my farm, and I like a little grease under my fingers. In the beginning of the day, I put my shorts on 1 foot at a time, just like the rest of you. Sure, I wear a title. That doesn't matter to me. The only title that matters to me is that I'm an American. And today, we're all truckers. This keep on trucking, and let's stand in freedom and unity with peace, firmness, and strong resolve. This is about our children, and we will never bow the knee and never let this happen to us again. This is not a red issue. This is not a blue issue. It is a red, white, and blue issue. And I'm going to put my phone away. I want to finish with one thought. St. Augustine. And you may know this one. but never forget it. The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose. It will defend itself.
Yeah.
God bless America. Thank you so much.
We got another Indiana doctor, Don Stock.
Here's a Hoosier. This is one of my brothers in freedom, Dr. Dan Stock, and I'm honored to be here with him. He represents you as a state, but he also represents medical freedom, and I think it would be an honor to hear a few words from my esteemed, humble, amazing friend, Dan.
My lovely wife Elizabeth and I came out here tonight because we figured if there was a group of people who were willing to inconvenience themselves and put their finances and their names at such great risk to stand up for freedom like this, the least we could do is walk out here and say hello to them. And when Ryan tells me how to come up here to speak to all you guys, which is even more flattering than I've been flattered in a great many ways, I was a little sad to hear the first speaker ever come out and say that he was going to have some doctors come up here who are a lot smarter than you are. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a bunch of letters behind my name. So does Ryan. So does Dr. Fauci. Those letters and those credentials may have let me find out that this was a sham a little sooner than you guys did. But I doubt that there's anything about your intelligence which is lesser than mine or Ryan's that you didn't figure out pretty quickly that this wasn't about a virus and this wasn't about healthcare. It was just about making sure that you were subjugated. So, ladies and gentlemen, no amount of credentials can be put behind any name to make him so that he can tell you that you're dumber than he is and that you should be genuflecting to his intellect. Who's the boss in the doctor-patient relationship? Ryan said it, I'll say it. Any doctor who won't say it is a doctor that you need to be taking your power back from, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
I'm very honored to be standing here today, but let me tell you what kind of things honor me more. I am the son of a 35 missions over Nazi Germany bomber pilot and the woman he came home to cry out all the horrors that he experienced over there. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to put up nearly as much sacrifices to people who fought underneath that flag today.
Right.
The greatest credential I'm ever going to have is the one that the people who sacrificed, like my mom and dad and the family who put this flag out here, the same thing that every one of you has the chance to earn, and that is to call yourself a United States citizen. And let me tell you how I hope you're going to exercise those incredible credentials that you share. Because the reason we got into this, ladies and gentlemen, was our legislatures have failed us dismally. Those governors, that president, Dr. Fauci wouldn't have that power if our legislatures had not given it to them and then walked away and let them keep it. And if you live here in Indiana, you know that because you watched our legislature with a supermajority of Republicans do nothing to take back that power. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to listen to the newspaper tell you who the candidates are. We know you can think for yourselves because you're a United States citizen. You can find out who the freedom warriors are who are willing to say, I don't work for the leadership in the Senate or the House, either the federal government or the state legislature. I don't work for the lobbyists. I work for the people who are in my district that I'm supposed to be representing when I go there.
I didn't get elected because I was really, really smart and smart to make smart decisions for them. I got elected because all of those people had a collective intelligence, and I was supposed to go there and be their voice. And if you have a candidate who has shown that he is not willing to stand up to his legislative leaders and say, you aren't what matters.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, you have failed to do what you as a citizen are supposed to be doing. When they wrote our Constitution, the Founding Fathers gave the state legislatures the power to take power back from the federal government and to control it in your name. And you need to make sure that that is where you concentrate your efforts, because the legislatures of every state across this country are where the solution to this lies. Not getting a new governor. We're not going to fix this by shooting Dr. Fauci. This is going to be fixed by having the legislatures take that power back from the executive branch where they gave it. We have candidates who are stepping up in the state of Indiana to do that. Heather Carey, Becky Cash, Mark Pierce, Sean Selby, I'm forgetting Richard's last name. Bagsby, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, they need your time and their energy. And for those of you who aren't from Indiana, find out those candidates in your state and get that state legislature back under control so it's serving you. Not the leadership, not the lobbyists, not the federal government, it's serving you. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we will learn to right that these guys fought for and not for us. My mom and dad won't have suffered in vain, and your children won't suffer in the future. And that's what we all need, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everyone who came out here tonight just as much as I want to thank every person in this convoy who has sacrificed their time with their family, their money, and even probably putting their reputations at risk, because you know that they're all going to be written up badly in the press, all right? You're all going to get smeared too, but ladies and gentlemen, let's thank all of them and show our gratitude by being involved in that legislative election and making sure that incumbency isn't what gets you a continuing ticket to represent your district. Thank you.
My name is Tyler Lee, and I'm a congressional candidate out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I just want to say it's such a privilege to be on the stage with fellow patriots like yourself, because this movement would not happen without all of you. And these truckers, I just want to take a moment to say it's an honor to stand beside them. And let's just honor them right now. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, these guys inspire me. This is the whole reason I'm running for United States Congress. They inspire me, they inspire you, and they've certainly inspired the world. And I have to give a shout out to our brothers and sisters in Canada who lit a fire under all of us. Two years ago, a line in the sand was crossed for me when the government decided to shut down my church and my French small businesses, but they left open the strip clubs, the abortion clinics, the liquor stores, big box retailers. And you know what my own governor in North Carolina said? He said, we're going to leave the liquor store open because we need to be able to cope with this pandemic. Yet, people were isolated from their community, from their church community, and because of that, we saw mental health and suicide skyrocket, and this is pure evil that we are fighting against. Since I launched my campaign last May, I couldn't have imagined, we knew it would go downhill, but I could not have imagined how quickly it has happened. But it seems like every day, we're all fighting for the police. We're defending them, not defunding them. We're standing up for parents because their children are being indoctrinated with this evil propaganda. We're standing up for healthcare workers and individuals like yourselves who have been terminated or threatened over termination from their jobs because they decided they wanted to make a personal choice that they didn't want to take the vaccine, and that is unconstitutional and un-American, and we've got to put a stop to it, and we will. But lastly, I have to give a shout out to my truckers. You know, honestly, before 7 days ago, I didn't know much about the trucking industry. And I have to say, many of you in this room are now family to me, and I've listened to their concerns. The over-regulation, the unnecessary regulations that these independent truckers deal with, that these corrupt, career-long politicians, they legislate from their ivory tower in D.C. and have no clue what these truckers and individuals deal with in their businesses on a daily basis. Lastly, I want to say one thing about this vaccine. My brother serves in the United States Army, but he has boldly stood up and he has denied the vaccine, and he is being discharged as we speak. And that is so un-American. Stop to it. That's the whole reason I left the business world behind. I've burned the ships. I'm so sick and tired of corrupt, career-long politicians that don't listen to we the people. In the Bible, there's a story where Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, and he went to Pharaoh and he said, "Let my people go." This convoy is going to D.C. to say, "Let my people go too."
There we go. Who here's from Indiana? All right. Who here is from out of town? Let me just say, as maybe, I hate to misspeak, but perhaps as the highest office holder found, let me welcome y'all to Indiana, the great crossroads of this country. We like truckers here. We like people who love America here. Thank you for standing up and giving us, as the last speaker said, giving us all some courage to stand up for ourselves and stand up for this great nation and all the things that it's given us. No? And I don't know, maybe it's okay that Canada had to wake us up in this regard, but I think we've been waking up for a long time. They call it American exceptionalism. It's spelled with a capital A and a capital E. It doesn't mean that we think we're better than anybody else. That's the point. It doesn't mean, although we may be, it doesn't mean that we have a better military than everyone else. Oh, at least for now we do. Thank God for those men and women. As the Attorney General of the state of Indiana, what American exceptionalism means. What American exceptionalism means is that we are unique to world history. Never before. And that's why you're standing here. You're not standing here because you want me to do something for you. You're standing here because we as the people need to make sure we're keeping this republic like our founders intended. That's the purpose. That's why you're here. We're here looking. I'll tell you something. That guy with the mouth who says, "Do something for us. Bring us justice." Let me tell you something. Because no politician will ever be dishonest with you. If you're looking for me to solve your problem, we will have the problem. This is not a one-person thing, and not one person, whoever gets on this stage, is going to solve it for us. It's only by keeping this republic and taking this country back. And that doesn't mean just going to Washington, D.C. I've been there. It's a terrible, toxic place. We'll go be known there, but you know where you got to be? You got to be in your school board meeting. You got to be at your city hall. You got to be at your county commissioners. Because that's where this pollution is starting. And that's where it's going. And that generation after generation is being indoctrinated. They're not being taught the things that we were taught in grade school and high school. They're not being taught any of that. They're being taught garbage. You know what? I've been to 100 schools. I swear. I have been to 100 schools across this country, not just in Indiana. In every classroom I go to, I ask them this question. Same one I'm asking you.
Take lessons from the
Have you ever been taught American exceptionalism? Have you ever been, do you know what that means? Has your teacher ever said that to you? 95 times out of 100 the answer is no. American exceptionalism means we are unique to world history. Doesn't necessarily mean we're better, but we're unique. Why are we unique to world history? We're unique because never before have the best ideas for self-governance, i.e. liberty, come together at the same time, in the same place, but in that Constitution. It hadn't been done before, and it hasn't been done the same way since. We flipped it on its head. No longer are we going to be subjects of a king. No longer will we be ruled by a government, a king. In fact, we the people, we're on top. And the government is supposed to be subject to us. That's why we're here. And the only thing above us, we the people, is supposed to be the rule of law. The rule of law applies to each of us equally, so we're supposed to go.
So do your job!
That is, the government's not supposed to be favorites. It shouldn't matter what color you are. It shouldn't matter your education level. That was the magic. That was the uniqueness. That was the exceptionalism. And that's why you're here. And the only thing above that is God Almighty Himself.
That's right.
Anymore. I appreciate you letting me welcome you. I want to thank you.
You know, I didn't really come up here with a game plan, what to talk about, what to say. And I'm nowhere near as good of a talker as some of these people that have been up here. But I want to start like this. It's not a right issue. It's not a left issue. It's an American issue. It's not just an American issue. It's a global issue. It's a people's issue. It's a human being issue. It's our issue. The People's Convoy may have been started with some truckers, motivated by our brothers and sisters to the north. Thank you, Canada. We love you. But this isn't a truckers' convoy. I know, weird. Not a truckers' convoy. It's a people's convoy. If you look around in this room right now, you see a lot of different symbolism around. You got a side-by-side hanging out over there. You got a pickup truck over there. Of course, you got the 3 semis in here, but you got a couple beautiful bikes too. You got an old Jeep. You got a pickup with a travel trailer out there. It happens to also be a mobile kitchen because he's taking care of some of us. You see an RV over there, and then you see a bunch of pickup trucks and cars out there. See, this ain't about the truckers. This is about the people.
people of the United States. This is a people's convoy. And I encourage every single American. I don't care if you're from the left side of the aisle, the right side of the aisle. I don't care if you're straight, gay, bi, male, female, or whatever you may be. At the end of the day, you are all Americans. I don't care if somebody comes up here or any other platform and talks about why you should vote for it, because I'm going to be honest with you. Don't. Until you do your research. Look into your candidates. Read all about them. Look into their voting record. Look into their personal life. How are they? Are they really a God-fearing man or woman? Really? Are they? Or do they just get up here and do a bunch of this?
Right.
A straight ticket. Never, never, never. Because I promise you, somebody on the right and somebody on the left is evil. You do your research. You become informed voters. The only way to save this country is for it to be ran by we, the people. It is high time that these career politicians go. It's time for things like, I don't know, term limits. It's time that it's recognized that holding a political office is a civic duty in which you leave and go back to work afterward. Running campaign trails and shaking hands and kissing babies and smiling for the cameras every 2 years or every 4 years or whatever it may be is not running our country. It's just, I don't know, look at me, I got a pretty smile. That crap don't work no more, and it's pretty evident by looking at everybody in this room. We have had enough! So here it comes again. It is time to remind the governments around the world, not just the United States, but around the world, that they work for